the knife world can be awfully made up of all sorts of personalities, right? So,
absolutely.
You know, and there are different, you know, by the same token, there's an ask for every seat, right? There's, you know, there's makers that are providing to different segments of the market, or even just what people like. So that being said, there's you know, there's kind of that there's the school that, you know, oh, NC's, you know, you're not really making knives or something, but you know, so why don't we kind of address that, not answer those guys, but talk about what NC gives you the capability, you know, what CNC machines and tolerances, and the fact that this stuff is done in-house down to the screws,
right?
You know, what that gives you, you know, what that allows you to bring to the table with your product line, you know.
Right. Well, you know, and this is something where I have maybe a little bit more of a unique position, because listen, I didn't start out with CNC.
Right.
I started out as you know, that maker pounding out a knife out of a plow point in an old turkey house. You know, I started that. That's most of my knife making career of the 25 years that I've been in it has been the one at a time, by hand with the file and on all of that. And then I started looking into CNC, and the one at a time craftsmanship is still there.
Right.
All of that is still there. The CNC is a tool. It's a tool just like a bandsaw. It's a tool just like a manual milling machine that a lot of knife makers that make their knives one at a time has. That's all it is. It's merely a tool, and it does not discount all of those makers that make knives like that, all the way from the like Taigu that does the really primitive knife making, all the way up to the guys like me that have NC. We're all the same. What they make is great, you know, and the guys that just use the manual mill, that's awesome, you know. The CNC brings something to the table that you can't have there. Right. And you know, these CNC machines they're more for if you're making more than one knife. If you're going to make a knife, don't buy a CNC machine to make a knife. Right. Okay, because you know, you've got $60,000, $75,000, $80,000 invested to make one knife. These are for making multiple knives. If you have a model and you're making multiple of, it's a tool for that. Right. And also the other thing that it gives me that helps with the XM-18 is the precision. These machines can be down into the millions resolution. Right. The hole placements are all the exact same. Some, you know, people ask, wow, you know, because when I started making the XM-18, I thought, hey, it would be neat if the customer can be able to interchange the handles. Right. You know, I'm sick of this black knife. I don't have enough money to buy another knife. Why would I want to buy another knife? Hey, you know, ding ding. How about taking and buying a handle, a handle side, and now you've got a new knife practically.
Yeah, or a guy that's even, you know, hey, every day I carry this black knife, but now I'm going on a hunting trip, or I'm, you know, going to go ice fishing or wherever else, and so I'm going to throw the orange on there in case I drop the damn thing. I can, you know, pick it up. So, you know, there's that kind of there's that utility built in there too, as well as the aesthetic thing.
Exactly, you know? And all of that. And the only way you can do that is absolute precision. Right. You know, you have to be able to. I have to be able to make a handle for that knife that will fit on that knife perfectly. That was bought by that customer a year ago. Right. And because of this CNC, I can be able to make that handle precise to where he can purchase it and put it on a knife that he bought a year ago, and it fits perfectly.
You know, and that's one of the things too that I was kind of, this is my first trip out to the Hinderer establishment, Fort Hinderer, if you will, and I was surprised. You know, I saw one of the lathes running, and there's, you know, there's the cooling fluid going everywhere and stuff, and the thing's spinning. And I said, what the hell? There's not a part in there. And one of Rick's guys said, oh yeah, there is. There's that stop pin. You know, which when you look at a stop pin, it's, you know, yay big. You know, and I don't know. You could probably throw out the specs how, you know, the diameter, but it's tiny, right? You know, and I said, well, wow, it is running. So, you know, down to those. The small components, you know, are done here in house. You know.
And speaking of those stop pins, those are pins. Those are the stop pins when the blade is closed. Yeah. And those are made out of 17.4 heat treated Stainless. And the reason is because we don't want to get a flat spot. You know, like when you're holding the knife when it's closed.
Oh, tough.
You know, not many people really squeeze it, but if you do, you can get a flat spot if it's soft. You know, soft stainless.
Right.
So I thought, well, let's make it out of hardened.
Because it's coming into contact with the hardened steel of
yeah,
the blade.
exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So again, where would you buy them?
Right.
You can't.
Yeah.
But I can. Hey, let's do that. Okay, no problem. We'll put it on the lathe and.
Yeah, and you know, and no matter who is, you know, it's also those things too. When you're in control of the process, you know, it's not like, you know, FedEx drops off a box of stop pins and you go, oh shit, you know, these are, you know, these are
they going to be
a
in
thou
stock?
off? Or,
yeah,
you know.
and if they're a thou off, then we have a problem.
Yeah.
You know, and so these, you know, I check and my guys check constantly the precision.
Yeah.
When we're, you know, looking at minus half thou tolerance, it's a half thou tolerance.
Yeah.
You know, so.
So, you know, literally, you know, so in addition to that, you know, as I was watching the XM-18s, you know, being assembled by, you know, by the Robb twins over there, you know.
Yeah.
And
we all, you know, get in there and
then after that, they're, you know, this guy's over here on the grinder doing the final sharpen,
yep.
right?
Every knife that comes out of here, I sharpen. I have
check
to
over, you know, and it was kind of funny. I was watching you. You know, we have some footage that we'll show up later and stuff. But you know, I was kind of watching you from afar. So every knife, you know, is getting the sharpen. But then he's also, you know, he's giving it the once over. You know, opening it up. You know, feeling it out and you know, so before it goes, you know, before it gets set on the sharpened pile, you know, it was kind of given the once over, a function check, and everything else to make sure nobody had to get smacked or anything like that. Right?
Yeah. Everything, you know, we our checks and balances here. Number one, when I decided that I needed to hire somebody to help me, you know, because you know, the popularity of the XM-18 was, and I wanted as many soldiers, as many cops to be able to get this knife as I could. That's why I went to the CNC ground edge bezels.
Right.
It's because I want to get these out in the hands of people that are using. They need them, and so I went and, you know, hired my first one of the Robbs. Who was my first full-time guy, and he came from actually the firefighter apparatus building industry, nozzles, fire nozzles, hose fittings, things like that. He's a machinist. He knows that that, you know, machining quality. However, he was making hose fittings, great big hose fittings.
That if they were 10 thou,
it's good enough.
Right,
he comes here and I'm telling him, hey, if we're a thou off, you throw them away.
Yeah, break out the micrometer. And,
So there was a learning curve for him, but he knows the quality. The reason why it has to be because now he sees the end product from start to finish. So he knows as we're assembling these XM-18s, he knows why that pin has to be perfect. You know, and that's a big thing with everybody that works here. Everybody knows why the quality has to be absolutely, you know, because they're meeting our end customers. They're meeting the soldiers and the cops that rely on these.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what maybe is a little different than maybe some other industries. Is we're small enough yet that they understand why. So they, you know, people will come in here and they'll see me or one of the Robbs looking at a knife through a magnifying glass.
Yeah.
And they're like, wow, really? Yeah, like, yeah, really. You know, everything is everything is right on.
And you know, and that also kind of allows me to answer a question rhetorically or whatever. You know, one of the things we get, again, coming through the eyes of a retailer is well, why the hell can't I get an XM-18? You know. And it's, you know, what the hell's wrong with, you know, and like, listen, I talk to these guys every other day. It's not like they're sitting up here not working or trying to find ways to not make XM-18s for folks, you know. Like,
going out and shooting.
Like Rick's got guns to buy, so he must make as many of the damn things as he can, believe you me. But, you know, so not to put words in your mouth here, but that's kind of the answer to the question is that it's one thing to... It's not a matter of merely buying another. It's building up a whole process that can support a greater output, and that is and maintaining that quality control and all those tiny things, you know, the specs and all that stuff, and still be able to do that on an increased output, you know, basis. It's not as simple as just grabbing another machine or something.
No, it is. It's a whole process that you have to look at it, and believe me, we're trying, because I want to get, you know, we're getting orders and emails. We only take orders from military law enforcement officer. A lot of you folks know our policy on that. And then our retailers such as Brady, you know, handles our civilian sales. But we're getting emails from soldiers and cops and federal law enforcement every day.
Yeah.
And believe me, it kills me not to be able to send them a knife right then and there. We have guys that are deploying. Hey, I'm deploying next week, you know, and so believe me, we're trying to reach that. However, that being said, I will not jeopardize any part of the process to get them out faster. It's, if we can be able, if I can upgrade machinery, if I can do this, that, to be able to get them out faster, that's fine. But we're still looking at each one of them with a magnifying glass. We're still, all of those things, we're still doing that.
If you double your output and end up putting out a shit product, it's like all that hard work's for not, you know, and the reputation, you know, it's just
that
not
guy,
the same.
that guy hanging on the edge of the cliff with a broken knife comes up, and I will not have that. So we are growing. We're getting more of them out there. However, it's supply demand. You know, the more knives we get out, the more people see that, hey, these things are great. Then they tell their buddies, and it just keeps ballooning. So we're racing to try to fill that at the same time, not losing sight of the ball of, you know, the knife is going to stay what it is. And you know, when I went to the production XM-18 as opposed to the custom XM-18. What a lot of people don't understand is they're built the exact same way.
Yeah, it's not like it's not like, oh, well, hey,
this is a custom.
We have these pot metal bolts here, you know.
And then, you go over to, they're put together the exact same way. All the components. The only difference between the custom XM-18 and the production XM-18 is I grind the blades on the customs.
Right.
Okay. Everything else is the same. You're getting the custom lockup, the custom cut-in lock. You're getting all of that on our production XM-18.
Yeah, and that's where the lines, you know, a lot of times, because you get the knife guy terminology, you hear a lot of stuff like, you know, production or mid-tech, or is it a custom? Is it, you know, and a lot of that is just really just terminology.
It is.
And it really means, what you really need to look at is what is it that you are buying, you know? So there's, you know, a production knife coming out of, you know, with parts assembled, you know, made from, you know, a million different machine shops and slapped together by, you know, a sweatshop worker or something. It's still a production knife, but it's nowhere near the same as, you know.
Yeah, this is the reason why I call it a production XM-18. And people say, well, it's a mid-tech. I'm not using the term mid-tech. The term mid-tech has been misused in a lot of cases. Ken Onion came up with that term way back when him and I did a kind of a collaboration on his mid-tech boa.
Right.
And I made the parts, and he built the knife. And when he came up with that term, it was different than what the term is being used now. Okay.
You know what, gang? We're going to take another quick break, and we'll get back and talk with Rick some more. You know, just go over a couple more elements on the XM-18, and then also talk about where Hinderer Knives is going next. I mean, what's in store that can be talked about, because some things can't be talked about. But so we'll be back here in a bit. We'll talk with Rick about that, his collaborations with ZT, Zero Tolerance, and get you back up to speed. So stay tuned.